Hey guys, let's talk Nissan Rogues. Specifically, is your Rogue safe to drive? Now, if you've got a 2018.5 Nissan Rogue, or Rogue Hybrid, listen up. Back in September 2018, Nissan put out a Campaign Bulletin, PC651. This isn't a recall and it's not a technical service bulletin, so you probably never got a letter in the mail. That's because it was sent straight to dealers, not to owners. So what's the issue? On about 1,120 of these specific 2018.5 models, the rear brake hose bracket might have loose or missing bolts. Here's why that matters. The bracket is supposed to hold the brake hose firmly in place. If the bolts are loose or missing, the hose can move around more than it should. But loose or missing bolts aren't the only reason this problem can happen. Sometimes, corrosion from road salt, especially in areas with harsh winters, can weaken the bracket or bolts, making them more likely to fail. Improper installation during previous repairs or maintenance can also leave the bracket insecure, and damage from road debris, like rocks or ice chunks, can bend or loosen the bracket or its fasteners. All of these issues can cause the bracket to lose its grip on the brake hose, putting your braking system at risk, even if the bolts themselves look okay at first glance. In addition to these, there are a few other common causes for brake bracket issues in the Nissan Rogue. For example, exposure to excessive moisture, like driving through deep puddles or flooding, can accelerate rust and corrosion on the bracket and bolts. Using the wrong type of cleaning chemicals or pressure washing the undercarriage too aggressively can also strip away protective coatings, making the bracket more vulnerable to rust. Sometimes aftermarket modifications or improper installation of suspension or brake components can put extra stress on the bracket, causing it to loosen or fail over time. Even repeated heavy loads or towing beyond the vehicle's recommended limits can contribute to bracket fatigue and eventual failure. So it's not just about the bolts. Environmental factors, maintenance habits, and how you use your Rogue all play a role in keeping the brake bracket secure. If the hose gets worn down or damaged, it could eventually start to leak brake fluid. So, what would you actually feel if this problem happens while you're driving? First, you might notice the brake warning light pop up on your dashboard. That's your car's way of saying something's wrong with the brakes. When you press the brake pedal, it could feel soft or spongy, almost like you're stepping on a pillow instead of a firm pedal. You might have to push the pedal down farther than usual to get the car to slow down, and it could take longer to come to a complete stop. That's a scary feeling, especially if you're used to your brakes responding quickly. You might also hear some odd noises like a faint hissing or a grinding sound when you brake, or even feel a slight vibration through the pedal. Sometimes the car might pull a little to one side when you brake, or you could notice a burning smell if the hose is leaking fluid onto hot parts. In the worst case, if too much brake fluid leaks out, your brakes could lose power or even fail, making it much harder to stop safely. Dealers are supposed to check this by looking up your VIN using Service ID PC651, especially before selling the car. If the bracket is loose or missing bolts, they'll snap photos and get it sorted out. So what can you do to help prevent this brake bracket issue from happening in the first place? Regular maintenance is key. If you live in an area where road salt is used during winter, make a habit of washing your car's undercarriage frequently to remove salt and prevent corrosion. Applying a rust inhibitor to the undercarriage and brake components can also help protect the bracket and bolts from rust. During routine service or oil changes, ask your mechanic to check the brake hose brackets for tightness and signs of corrosion or damage. Catching a loose or rusty bracket early can save you from bigger problems down the road. Early warning signs to watch for include any new noises when braking, a soft or spongy brake pedal, the brake warning light coming on, or visible rust or movement around the brake hose bracket. If you notice any of these, get your Rogue checked out right away. Staying alert to these symptoms and keeping up with regular inspections can go a long way in preventing serious brake issues. Now you might be wondering, will Nissan cover the cost if your Rogue is affected? The good news is, if your 2018.5 Rogue or Rogue Hybrid falls under this campaign, the repair should be done free of charge at the dealership, regardless of your warranty status. Since this is a special service campaign and not a recall or regular warranty repair, Nissan has instructed dealers to fix the issue at no cost to the owner. So you shouldn't have to pay out of pocket for this specific brake bracket fix, even if your basic warranty has expired. Just make sure your vehicle is included in the campaign by having the dealer check your VIN. The repair itself is usually quick. Most dealerships can inspect and fix the brake hose bracket in about 30 to 60 minutes depending on how busy they are. You might need to schedule an appointment, but the actual work doesn't take long. But if you already own a 2018.5 Rogue or Rogue Hybrid, it's smart to ask your dealer to check that bracket next time you're in for service, just to be safe. Now, if you're comfortable doing a little DIY, you can safely check the brake hose bracket yourself at home. With your car parked on a level surface and the parking brake engaged, use a flashlight to look under the rear of your Rogue and locate the brake hose bracket near the rear wheels. Check if the bracket is firmly attached and that both bolts are present and tight. If you notice any bolts missing, loose, or see the hose moving around, avoid driving the car and contact your dealer right away. Never attempt to drive if you spot any damage or leaks. Brake issues are serious. If you're unsure or uncomfortable inspecting it yourself, it's always best to have a professional mechanic or your Nissan dealer take a look. But here's something important to keep in mind. Even after the brake bracket is fixed, there could still be lingering issues. If the hose was already worn, frayed, or had started leaking brake fluid before the repair, simply tightening or replacing the bracket won't undo that damage. In some cases, the brake hose itself may need to be replaced, and any leaked fluid should be cleaned up, and the brake system checked for air or contamination. If you notice any symptoms like a soft brake pedal, warning lights, odd noises, or reduced braking power after the repair, don't ignore them. These could be signs that there's still a problem, maybe from earlier wear or a missed issue during the initial fix. Always monitor your brake performance after any repair, and if anything feels off, get your Rogue checked by a professional mechanic right away. It's better to be safe and have a thorough inspection than risk your safety on the road. Now let's take a quick look at what people are saying online about this Nissan Rogue brake bracket issue. On owner forums and social media, the general sentiment is a mix of concern and relief. Some owners have shared stories like, "I only found out about the loose bracket after my mechanic noticed it during an oil change. No letter from Nissan." Others have posted, "Glad my dealer fixed it for free, but I wish Nissan had notified us directly." There are also a few frustrated comments. "I had a brake fluid leak and it was scary. Nissan should have made this a recall." On the positive side, several users report, "The fix was quick and painless and my brakes feel solid now." Overall, most owners appreciate that the repair is free, but many wish communication from Nissan had been clearer. If you're worried, you're definitely not alone. Lots of Rogue drivers are double-checking their cars and sharing tips to stay safe. One owner shared a particularly cautionary tale. "I was driving on the highway when my brake warning light came on. I pulled over and called for a tow. The mechanic found that the brake hose bracket was loose and the hose had started to wear through. It could have been a disaster if I hadn't stopped in time." Another owner warned, "I ignored the soft brake pedal for a week, thinking it was just air in the lines. Turns out the bracket was loose and the hose was almost completely worn through. I was lucky it didn't fail completely." These real experiences highlight the importance of taking any brake issues seriously and getting them checked out immediately. If you found this helpful, hit like, subscribe for more Nissan tips, and drop a comment if you've had any issues with your Rogue. Thanks for watching.